Hello, welcome to the Sound of Science, the place where we deconstruct unscientific bogus and silly scams. Let's go get them. Hello, my fellow critical thinkers. Today we're going to watch and discuss two church clowns responding to a George Carlin show. As many of you know, George Carlin was one of the greatest American comedians ever, and he was an atheist who often made jokes about the Christian God. Church clowns don't like that, so a couple of them, calling themselves Upon Friar Review, decided to respond to a few sections of a George Carlin show. These particular church clowns have no less than 179,000 subscribers on YouTube. So don't tell me I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel. I'm trying to take on some professional apologists here. But don't set your hopes too high, because as we will learn soon, these professional church clowns use exactly the same stupid arguments as their budget minions do in my comment section. I start wondering if they perhaps are the same people. Anyway, let's roll and see what these two church clowns have got to say.
Take me to your leader. Oh wait, that's me, Father Casey. Nice to meet you.
I'm Father Patrick.
And this is Upon Friar Review.
Indeed.
We are back! Woo! Woo-hoo. Father Patrick, we have got a troubling episode today.
Oh, that's a bad combination because we're filming in the morning and I'm extra grumpy in the morning.
Oh, no. We're going to look at a grumpy man himself. A very hurt man.
So, this is why I call you guys church clowns. Right off the bat, you start off with a good old ad hominem in order to assassinate the character of George Carlin before you even addressed one of his arguments. The first thing you do is call George Carlin grumpy, and you tell he is so hurt. And those two ad hominems are of course meant as a lame attempt to invalidate George Carlin's arguments before he even made them. If George Carlin is grumpy and hurt, that must explain why he's saying all those nasty things. Although you might succeed in distracting some of your most gullible believers with these ad hominems, you should know that this is a debating trick that is frowned upon in any serious conversation, and that you really should not want to use if you want to be taken seriously on the topic of morality. But now that you've chosen to do this, I will gladly respond in kind by calling you church clowns, so that from now on, everybody knows that you are presenting bozo arguments. Let's continue.
So what we're going to watch today is a stand-up routine from George Carlin.
Ooh.
George Carlin, notorious atheist.
Yeah, you managed to complete your bullshit bingo in less than a minute. Congratulations. 3 ad hominems before you even addressed one argument. A notorious atheist. As if atheism is something that could make you notorious. Atheism is just not believing the claim that a God exists. It's having a frickin' opinion about something, that is all. So, what did George Carlin do to become so notorious? Asking critical questions about your belief system, making jokes, exposing the nonsense of your religion. And you are telling George Carlin is a hurt man, while you yourself can't even take a few jokes about your religion? This is a very bad start. You guys are wicked. But you know what? I won't flood the entire place right away. I'll give you a second chance to say a bit more sensible stuff.
And so he has this stand-up routine. I don't even call it comedy act, but he kind of makes fun of the church.
Oh, George Carlin makes fun of the church. That is so awful. What a disgrace that comedians in a free country have the right to ridicule your delusions. I guess you still don't get the irony of you calling George Carlin a hurt man, but never mind.
He's a wicked cusser.
Yeah, so we're going to try to cut out all the cussing. But just so you know, it's going to be a little hard to watch at times, so viewer discretion is advised, but we're going to do our best to try to bring light to it.
Oh, sweet mother of Gandalf. This is pathetic and hilarious at the same time. These guys promote the Bible book. They tell you to live your life by the Bible. They say their Bible represents the ultimate truth and the highest morality in the universe. And then when you open their Bible, you see these guys promote a book that tells you how to beat up your slaves, how to stone gay people to death, and even in the first chapter it shows a tyrant god who deliberately drowns the entire world population, including babies and children, because some of their parents didn't feel like obeying this god character. These guys promote a book that is full of violence and hate. However, when George Carlin is using a few four-letter words, they will cut these words out of their video. I don't have any other option than to establish that you guys are total hypocrites.
Religion has actually convinced people that there's an invisible man living in the sky who watches everything you do every minute of every day. And the invisible man has a special list of 10 things he does not want you to do. And if you do any of these 10 things, he has a special place full of fire and smoke and burning and torture and anguish, where he will send you to live and suffer and burn and choke and scream and cry forever and ever till the end of time. But he loves you.
Yeah, absolutely one of the greatest routines of George Carlin ever. Not only very funny, but also with an extremely important message. This supposed God supposedly loves us, yet he created a place with the specific goal of torturing those who do not obey him. No Christian ever gave a sensible response to that, and I surely don't expect these two clowns to bring any change to that. But again, let's see if they can come up with something.
I find it very hard to believe that someone so rational and intellectual as he is, he thinks constantly thinking through things, picks up on all these minutiae and details, wouldn't get the idea that there is in fact good and evil.
What are you babbling? George Carlin doesn't deny there is evil. He just demonstrated your God to be evil. Your God built a place to burn you forever if you don't obey him. Any God who would do such a thing is an evil thug himself. That is the whole point of the routine that you just showed. How can you not understand that?
How could we believe in a God where there are no consequences? Of course, there will be people who turn away, and what's God going to do? I'm sorry you've turned away.
Yeah, that is all your God needs to do if people turn away from him. Just leave them alone. Instead of burning and torturing them forever, people want to make their own choices. I thought your God was all about free will, but apparently he is not. Your God only gives us two choices: obey or be tortured forever. That is the mindset of a brutal dictator, not a loving God. By the way, please note how Christian apologists abuse the word consequences when they actually mean the tyrannical decisions of their own God. Consequences is when something inevitable happens as the result of an action. For example, it rains and I go outside anyway, then I'll get wet. That was inevitable. That is a consequence. Not obeying your God and then your God deciding to burn me forever. That is not a consequence. That is the deliberate choice your God makes to put eternal suffering on me. He had the freedom to choose not to create hell, not to put me there, not to torture me there. Yet somehow your God wants to make people suffer. And that is why George Carlin doesn't believe your God is a loving God.
I think the problem here, though, is it's focusing very, very minutely on the judgment of God, forgetting the whole story of Exodus and his love for the people of Israel.
Yeah, those minute details, like your God letting millions of people die from earthquakes, hurricanes, and diseases, while he could have ended all of that in the blink of an eye. Those minute details of your God just letting millions of innocent people to be victimized by unspeakable acts of evil because of war and crime. Your God is all-powerful, and he could have prevented all of that. Yet he apparently doesn't care. But at least he loved the people of Israel. That is exactly the point that Carlin is making. And you just repeat the same nonsense that Carlin has just refuted.
His covenants with the people in Genesis.
Ah, Genesis. Would that be the book in which God deliberately drowns the entire world population, including babies and children? Yes, your God was so loving and forgiving in Genesis.
looking at the countless times, I mean hundreds of times where he showed patience and mercy to the people, and they kept screwing up. Clearly, this isn't the way God acts. He doesn't just condemn people to hell. He shows patience.
That sentence alone shows such a twisted mindset that can only be caused by religious doctrine, as if your God's patience with us is some kind of virtue. Your God doesn't need to be patient with us. He just needs to leave us alone. Your God just should close the torture chambers where we supposedly end up if we don't obey him. Your God should stop drowning millions of innocent babies and children. Your God should stop causing earthquakes and stop inventing new deadly diseases all the time. Your God doesn't bother to stop war or crime. He just lets everything happen. Except when we don't obey him. Then he gets up from his lazy armchair to engage in some good old torturing. If your God just can't stop making life for us as horrible as possible, we don't need his patience. But can he at least leave us alone?
Yeah, and the fact that he's making fun of God being invisible is a little disturbing.
Yeah, these good arguments are so disturbing, aren't they? Your God is invisible. We can't see him. We can't take pictures of him. We can't measure him. We can't locate him. There is no equipment in this world that was ever capable of detecting your God. There is no way to distinguish your God from a non-existing God. So why do you believe he exists in the first place? So it's very good for George Carlin to point that out.
Only because I want him to know that he couldn't possibly perceive the majesty of God as a human being with human eyes. That God is in some level unknowable.
Well, if God is unknowable, as you've just said, and if George Carlin can't know anything about God because he's just a human being, then how do you know anything about your God? How do you know what your God wants? How do you know if your God is loving? How do you know if your God even exists? Sweet uncle of Frodo, the level of reasoning of these people.
And of course he's invisible, but makes himself visible in Jesus.
No, he doesn't. Jesus is just as invisible as your God is. We can't see Jesus. We can't take pictures of Jesus. We can't measure him. We can't locate him. There is no equipment in this world that was ever capable of detecting your Jesus. There is no way to distinguish your Jesus from a non-existing Jesus. Oh, there probably was a guy called Jesus 2,000 years ago who probably was crucified and whose fan club evolved into Christianity as we know it. But that at best shows that Jesus was a man who once existed. That is totally different from claiming that Jesus exists and is visible. Elvis existed, we know that for sure, but Elvis does not exist now and is not visible now. And if it's different with your Jesus, then you gotta prove that. Otherwise, there is no reason to believe your claim.
Yeah, would you want a God that can be contained?
Oh gosh,
think
no,
so.
no.
Oh yes, please, contain your God. Maybe that'll stop him from giving deadly diseases to innocent children.
That he's invisible just makes more sense. And I'm surprised again that George didn't see that.
No, of course that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense for anything that supposedly exists to be invisible or indetectable. If that is your line of reasoning, then it would make sense for an invisible and very shy elephant who is orbiting the moon to exist. And of course, this invisible elephant is very shy, as I told you, so it only makes sense that it is invisible.
He's been very hurt.
Yeah.
You can tell he's coming out of a lot of hurt.
I've stopped counting, but these clowns are pulling this ad hominem about 5 to 10 times in this video alone. It is so weak and so dishonest, and it's even an insult to human intellect to try this pathetic strategy in order to ignore the arguments of your opponent. The problem, as always with videos of these Christian apologists, is that they make mistakes, stack unsubstantiated claims upon unsubstantiated claims. They misrepresent atheists. They go for ad hominems. Their logic fails over and over and over again. I've only covered a few minutes of a video that lasts over 30 minutes. So as usual, there is not much point in continuing much further, except for this last thing that is so disgusting and unworthy that I do want to share it with you. Viewer discretion advised because of incoming ignorant and offensive church clown.
Well, you've got good and evil. You've got good and evil. I mean,
You got free will.
you have to have good and evil to be free and conscious.
But I think the mistake he's making here is he's giving all the credit to God. Right? Do we not have agency?
Oh, man.
Right? Like, I don't understand this disconnect here that say that, well, there's famine and crime.
And the people who cry out, what about natural disasters? Well, again, free will, you don't have to live on the fault line.
Yeah.
You can move away from San Francisco. You don't have to live in a desert.
Yeah.
You can move to a place where there is water.
What? Before I comment on this, I will repeat that last section so that we're sure what this decent Christian who represents a loving God is saying here.
And the people who cry out, what about natural disasters? Well, again, free will, you don't have to live on the fault line.
Yeah.
You can move away from San Francisco. You don't have to live in a desert.
Yeah.
You can move to a place where there is water.
You pompous, self-centered fool. You don't have to live in the desert. You can go to a place where there is water. Look at you, sitting in your nice and comfortable studio, making money from videos that spread ignorance. You were born in one of the richest countries in the world, a country where fruit and vegetables and bread and fresh water are available everywhere. You just have to step into your pickup truck and drive to your local Walmart. You've got good hospitals, you've got good roads, you've got good schools, and most of all, you got peace and freedom and safety in your country. And you were born in that wealthy and safe country. You didn't do anything to deserve that. It was pure luck. Now, at the other side of the planet, far away from your comfortable studio, there are 1 billion people who were born in the desert. They have no fresh water, no fruit, no vegetables, no doctors, no schools, no pickup truck, no shower, not even a toilet. All they can do is walk for 20 miles every single day to go to the village and fill some bottles with contaminated water. And on their way, they need to be very careful because walking to that village is dangerous. There are soldiers out there who randomly shoot at people. Crime is rampant. Abuse of women and children happens every day. They can't go anywhere else because there is no opportunity for them whatsoever to get out of that hopeless situation. And they were born in that situation without them choosing for it, without them deserving it, without any of them making any mistake that led to this horrible situation. And then there is you, returning from your local Walmart with a bag of groceries, telling these people to move to a place where there is water, because your God gave them free will. Be ashamed of yourself. At least think twice before using that ridiculous free will argument again. These kind of fools totally annoy me. Therefore, I need to stop for today. But while you're here, please consider to subscribe to my channel. That way I can make more videos addressing fools like these two church clowns. Thanks.